You can go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Capitola Planning Commission meeting of July 20th. This meeting is open to the public with both in-person attendance at Capitola City Hall in the council chambers at 420 Capitola Avenue and remote attendance possible. Planning Commission and staff are attending in person and remotely via Zoom. There's several ways for the public to watch and participate. Information on how to join the meeting via Zoom and make public comment during the meeting is available on our website, cityofcapitola.org, on the meeting agenda. The public can also live stream the meeting on the city's website or on YouTube. As always, this meeting is cablecast live on Spectrum Communications Cable TV Channel 8 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99 and is being recorded to be rebroadcast on the following Mondays and Fridays at 1 p.m. on Spectrum Channel 71 and Spectrum Channel 25. A recording of the meeting is also available on the city's website after the meeting. Our technician tonight is Brian. And as a reminder, please turn off your cell phones. Thank you. Okay. We'll have a roll call
Chair Westman,
here.
Vice Chair Christensen.
Here.
Commissioner Estee. Here. Commissioner Jensen. Here.
Okay, now we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, to this world, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Next, we have new business. Or we'll move on to, we have any new business? All right, we'll move on to oral communications. In oral communications is an opportunity. This is a little different tonight. Oral communications is an opportunity for anyone to speak on an item that is not on our agenda. If you would like to speak to us on an item that's not going to be discussed tonight, you're welcome to come to the podium and you have 3 minutes. And seeing no one is anyone, we don't do Zoom for oral communications. Okay, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Sorry, as a reminder, make sure your microphones are on. One request is to remove 5A from the consent calendar for 201 Monterey Unit C. That's Castagnola's Deli. So we'll move that to the beginning of the agenda.
Okay, we'll do that when we get to the consent calendar. Okay, are there any commission comments?
No.
Other staff comments?
No additional staff comments.
Okay, we'll move to the approval of the minutes for March 2nd and June 1, excuse me, for the planning commission. Does anybody have any corrections or?
I move approval.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes for March 2nd and June 1st. I think we can just all vote on this without roll call. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimously. So now we're moving to the consent calendar, and we are going to first remove one item from the consent calendar, and that's 201 Monterey Avenue. That is the permit and conditional use permit for the sidewalk dining at the restaurant at that location. So can we have motion? We're just moving it a little further down on the agenda. Yeah, it's still it's still gonna be tonight. It'll just be under public comment, so you'll have an opportunity to comment on it. So, why don't we move that item to, we'll call it A1 and deal with that first under the public hearing since we have someone here to speak on it. Is that everyone in consensus with that?
Yep.
Okay, the other items that we have on the consent calendar is 4610 Crystal Street, and it's a permit for a second-story addition and minor modification for the required covered parking dimensions. Would anybody like to pull that item for discussion? Seeing no one, would anyone in the audience like to pull that item? Seeing no one, we'll hear a motion.
I'll motion to approve, I guess the consent or the item, address of 4610 Crystal Street, permit number 22-0396.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carries unanimous. So now we'll move to the public hearings, and our first public hearing is going to be the item that we removed from the consent calendar, and that's the revocation of a conditional use permit for sidewalk dining at an existing restaurant, Castaneglo's Deli and Cafe, located within the mixed-use village zoning district. We have a staff presentation.
Yeah, good evening, Chair Westman and Commissioners. Actually have an update for you on this item. I was originally scheduled for a revocation hearing due to an inability to collect the lease payment for it and also get insurance information. But the owner actually brought us a check for the full amount that was owed yesterday and sent us an email today committing to getting the insurance information. So a good outcome. We don't need to continue with the revocation, but we certainly don't want to end up in this situation again. A lot of staff hours were expended on bringing this situation to a hearing. There was a 10-month effort, 2 departments involved in communicating with the applicant and trying to get the file current. So we're going to be recommending a couple of conditions to be added to this sidewalk use permit. And I've got them on the screen here. I'll just read them into the record for you. So number 27 would be that the community development director may revoke the sidewalk dining permit if payment in full is not received after 30 days of issuance of a notice of delinquency, or if there is a lapse in providing insurance coverage. The applicant may appeal the community development director's decision to revoke the permit within 10 calendar days. The decision by providing the applicable form and fees per section 17.152. So this would just be a tool for us to not have to go through such a lengthy process. The applicant could still bring this item if they disagreed with the director's decision, but gives us a little bit more authority to move forward without so much process. And then the second one, number 28, is so following any late payment, the owner applicant will be invoiced annually in the following billing cycle. After 2 successive timely annual payments, they'd again be eligible for quarterly payments. So they right now are late on a payment, so the next 2 years would be billed annually instead of quarterly. And again, this is just an effort to try to save time and letters and the back and forth that goes in trying to get timely payment. That's our recommendation this evening, not to revoke, but to add 2 conditions to the permit.
So on the 28th, the finance department already has a procedure where they will bill annually if, lessees that remain delinquent after notification would bill annually rather than quarterly. So isn't that kind of the same as 28?
It is. We have a little bit more authority because this is linked to a use permit, and so we wanted to put it in both places and also have there be a demonstrated performance with 2 successive payments in a row.
Anyone have any other questions for staff before we let the public speak? All right, we'll open the public hearing on this item. If anyone's interested in speaking, please come up to the podium. You're welcome to sign your name if you want to make certain that we get it correct in the minutes. There's a little button there to push on your microphone.
Oh, okay. My name's John McHenry. I live next to Castagnola's at 207 San Jose, Monterey Avenue. It's been a really good neighbor, and I don't know if I can ask questions or not, but I'm wondering why he's getting charged to have those little sidewalk tables out there. Staff or money?
Well, I'll answer that quickly. Everyone does. If you're using the public sidewalk, then you need to pay a fee to use the public sidewalk for private business use.
Okay, well, I'd like to say that I think it's crazy because the small businesses, especially in this town during winter, it's difficult to run a small business. And to charge him when he's had those tables there all these years with no problem whatsoever with the ingress and egress down Monterey Avenue, I don't understand it. My building at 207 Monterey and the buildings that continue down Monterey are all 5 feet from the gutter, from the curb, I'm sorry. And his building is 10 feet, 6 inches from the curb. Therefore, his little tables do not protrude beyond 5 feet. So I don't understand why he even has to get a permit to do this or pay a fee to do this.
Well, thank you for your comments. It is in the city's zoning ordinances. It is a law in the city of Capitola that he has to get a permit and pay the fee. And so as the planning commission, it's our job to enforce what are the regulations that are on the city's books.
Okay, so I'd have to go to the city council to ask them to change that.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your
You're welcome.
time.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? Seeing no one, I will bring it back to the commission. Would anyone like to start off? Anybody have any difficulty with the 2 conditions that staff would like to add?
I think we have a Zoom
I
hand
need
raised.
a little help here, so,
Someone on Zoom is
Oh,
wanting to speak.
sorry. Someone on Zoom like to speak?
We will allow John to speak. Please unmute yourself.
Hey guys, I hope everyone's having a lovely evening. I'd just like to agree with what John just said. I know this isn't really you guys, this is the city council, but chiseling our small business owners because we have made terrible economic choices over the last couple of decades, and all we really have left is parking and basically making our small businesses pay far more than they need to. This is a problem with many of the small businesses in town. And I'm not talking about like the parking issues where we try to like make them add spaces, even though we have like a empty lower parking lot right there. I'm really focused on how hard we make it for our small businesses to survive here. I've even heard they're opening a second pet store in the lower village. Do we really need 2 small like bougie pet stores there? Again, not really your stuff, but I would like to say at the end, I just want to make sure that this business owner is not going to have this like, I guess, applied to him retroactively. He will still be able to make quarterly payments until he misses another payment, referring to number 28 there. And he's not going to have to make annual payments for the next 2 years. Doing that in the year where the war failed and the worst winter for these businesses in maybe 2 to 3 decades is just it's silly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on Zoom?
No.
All right, now we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. Anyone have any concerns about the 2 conditions staff would like to add? So I'm assuming that the motion we want to make is to modify the conditional use permit to add these 2 new conditions to this application.
Correct.
Somebody like to make the motion?
Yeah, I'll move that we modify the conditional use permit for, shoot, the address is 201 Monterey,
201 Monterey.
201 Monterey, including the two, number 27 and 28.
I'll second.
Have a second at this end, so we probably should do a roll call vote.
Chair Westman,
Aye.
Vice Chair Christensen,
Aye.
Commissioner Esti.
Aye.
Commissioner Jensen.
Okay, so now we will move along to our regular item A, which is 111 Capitola Avenue. And it is location 2 parking spaces in front of English Ale, coastal development permit, a design permit, a major encroachment permit for a custom street dining deck at 111 Capitola Avenue. Is there a staff report?
Yeah, thanks again. Be introducing this item as well. So English Ales in the mixed use village has presented it's really a mix of a custom dining deck, and they've incorporated some prototype items. But by definition, if you deviate with one standard, it's called a custom dining deck. There's a design permit and planning commission review. This is the business frontage, 111 Capitola Avenue. So it is 2 parking spaces. And the primary focus of the proposal this evening is to repurpose the existing planters in a slightly different format on what would be the permanent dining deck. And this was originally rolled out during COVID. And the owner had an issue with matching some paint. And so the goal is to repaint as well to match the building. And so this is the site plan. I'm going to use the pointer here for a moment and point a few things out. Got Capitola Avenue on the left side, and then the English Ales building on the right. The footprint of the deck is 42 feet in length by, this measurement is 8.6, but that actually includes the top of the ramp of the curb. It's really about 8 feet wide. And then these 1, 2, 3 rectangles, these are the existing planters. They would be butted up and fastened to each other. And 1, 2, 3, 4 at the bottom. And then the gap that's left between those would be a wood paneling, horizontal board with trim to match the facade, same fascia and facade of planters. So it would look like a continuous facade from the Capitola Avenue side. And then there is a proposal here for a ramp, and this ramp projects onto the sidewalk from the back of the curb 1 foot 9 inches. And the reason for this ramp is the slope from the gutter pan up to the crown of the road at this cross section of Capitola Avenue is particularly steep. And this ramp has to meet accessibility sloping requirements. So to get the effective run and the top out landing of a 5'5", this run has to push out into the sidewalk. One of the concerns with this is obviously pedestrians, but there is a bit of cover in existing installments here with the tree, this palm tree in the sidewalk, and then there's a city lamppost here as well. There is 8'8" clear of the building for passage. The minimum requirement is 5 feet, so it meets the standard remainder. I'm going to show you a cross section of it. And so with the road crowning being so steep and having a flat deck, this ramp needs to be a bit longer and project onto the sidewalk. So getting into just some of the other items, prototype items that were selected were heaters and a rope and stanchion, which extends along at the curb line of the deck. Custom items include the tables and chairs. These are black powder coated aluminum items. We've done a visual inspection of them, and they look to be pretty durable and suitable for this use. The items that we are recommending an alternate for as staff is the applicant has proposed a 9-foot residential grade umbrella with LED lights underneath and umbrella stands that are a bit blocky and worn and could present a tripping hazard. And with the spread of the umbrella, this is going to overhang the 8-foot deck in some way, 9 feet. So that's also a concern. And then the introduction of a new light source with the LEDs. So the applicant has rolled some of this out this week. So we got a real life view of what it would look like, assuming the deck was built. And with this photo, I'm showing you he's also painted the interior of the planters to match the building. That before there was a bit of a lavender shade to the gray, and he's going to paint the outside if approved this evening. And then the photo on the right, I went out and took some measurements. So back of curb, 1'9". What does that look like? Projecting that up the pedestrian path. So it falls just shy in the far tree well there. It's just shy of about the midway point if you're measuring from the curb. So it falls a little to the curb side of the midpoint of that tree well, and it cuts about the same line through the lamppost, and it's about 5 bricks in. And so that's where the sidewalk, or rather the ramp would meet the sidewalk. And then this is the last of the temporary installations from COVID relief. And so we want this item to move quickly. I can say that short of the umbrellas, the applicant has a building permit waiting at the building department, both approved by building and public works. So really just waiting for planning approval. If approved tonight, we could issue an approval tomorrow with an alternate umbrella. We want to encourage this installation in the next 30 days and add a condition that the temporary deck be removed in 30 days from this meeting, which will be August 19th. So with the alternate umbrellas and bases, we're recommending approval and with the updated condition. Happy to take any questions.
Before we open the public hearing.
I have one question. How does it work with the size of the deck, like going across like 2 other businesses? Has there been, I don't know what the background rule is around that. Is it allowed to be just in front, or are they allowed to extend it in front of the business with approval of the other businesses, or how's that decision get made?
So the city has some discretion if there is an overlap. So that, the way the code reads is that the priority is to have parking spaces that are directly in front of the business. With this business, there's about 4 to 5 feet that encroach onto the other business. Also, hand in hand with that code answer is there was a lottery. So this business applied for 2 parking spaces, and there was no competition for those spaces by other businesses.
And there hasn't been any feedback from those other businesses that they have any issue, because it's what's there now, right?
Correct.
Thank you for the background.
Do the prototype umbrellas have lighting in them?
No.
What is the steel flooring plate? I'm having trouble locating that on the schematic. It's listed on the L1.2.
L1.2 at the lower right of the sheet.
Yeah, it's listing steel flooring plate, and I'm just looking around to see where that's put on the deck or.
Oh, that runs along the gutter line. So that plate is about 8 inches wide.
Gotcha.
It spans the gutter to allow
Drainage.
storm drainage below.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Okay, so now we will open the public hearing on this item. Is there anyone here in the audience or the applicant who would like to speak? Seeing no one, is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak on this item?
We have no participants with their hand raised.
Okay, So we will close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. And I would just like to see the cut through that you had that showed the problem with the handicap ramp. Is it does bother me that we're encroaching on the sidewalk because, you know, we'd sort of be setting a precedent for everyone to do that. So I want to make certain that there are no other options that could be used to make it possible for their ramp to not encroach on the sidewalk. And I'll confess, I'm not a building person. Maybe Commissioner Jensen can help us if he can use his building expertise, but it's,
It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of other options for them unless they were to encroach into their 5x5 circle. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem.
so does this mean that every ramp is going to encroach on the sidewalk in all of these dining decks since they can't encroach in, because they can only be 8 feet wide in the parallel parking spaces?
This is the only one that we know of that needs this. The other deck that's approved is at the Sausage Works, and their road crown is much shallower. And so they're able to make up the rise in the ramp just over the span of the deck. So
And they don't have to have a 5-foot clear space at the end of the ramp. I mean, that's what I was hearing.
They-
the deck platform has to be built a couple of inches up above the curb
Right.
in order to meet the grade as it's sloping up the center of the road. And most of the other conditions won't. Most of the other streets don't have this condition.
Right. I guess my question is, what I was hearing was to meet the ADA requirement, they have to have 5 feet clear at the end of their ramp. And if that is the case, then there's no way on an 8-foot project, you wouldn't have the ramp encroaching on the sidewalk. My math wrong? I mean,
So the 5-foot landing is correct. They all have to have that for the ADA. But due to the slope here, because the crown of the street is so high and you can't go beyond a certain slope for the ramp, that's why it's extending out into the sidewalk, where on San Jose Avenue, we don't have the same issue. So in the design, the building permit that came in for the prototype, it does all fit within the deck as it should, with the 5-foot landing inside the deck. But this is a unique circumstance due to the street. And if you'd like, we can add that to the findings. That would help, you know, so that we're not setting a precedent, that there's a reason for why we're allowing this onto the sidewalk. And we can also elaborate that there's a tree well and a light post. So it's not creating a new impediment on this, you know, we could buff up our findings if you'd like.
anybody else have any questions?
I think this is a really nice presentation, and I see what you're saying about the encroachment, but I feel like the lamppost and the tree kind of provide enough, you know, encroachment around it to where it doesn't seem to be, you know, in and of itself. But I don't have a problem with it all. I think it's a really nice presentation, and I think it'll complement that whole sidewalk.
I think maybe if we encourage, if we can encourage them, would there be, I mean, that would be something that you could walk into pretty easy. I mean, can they put a planter at each side of the ramp? Just so it'd be more of a visual thing than just a tube or on the
I
ramp coming
think
down.
they are proposing to
Oh,
put
do they?
a
I'm sorry.
planter.
I was looking at like, okay.
That's what C is.
Oh, sorry. Is that,
Okay.
I would move approval. Can we do that?
Sure. There's a second?
I'll second. Oh, I'll second.
Can I ask for a clarification? Would you like to move approval with expanded findings or as is?
I'd move approval with the expanded findings, just to say that this, with whatever, however you want to word it, but saying that the encroachment is contextual because of the crown.
Well, when you expanded findings, you mean the umbrella prototype.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So the findings, yeah, so I guess the findings and then the added condition that, Brian, do you want to pull up that added condition?
It's not a condition, it's just recommendation that you select from the prototype.
I actually don't have a problem with that umbrella. That could, I mean, I would move. Is there any, what was the specific reason you guys didn't like the umbrella?
The number one is that it's 9 feet wide on top of
Oh.
an 8-foot deck.
Gotcha.
So we can- Not a bicyclist, but projects into the traffic at Capitol Avenue at that spot is very crowded and B, very.
Understood.
I think they need to keep it the 8-foot diameter that it's on top.
Save eyes.
And I want to be sensitive just to like the other applicant, whoever has already probably purchased the stuff in alignment, that we have sort of a standard size and feel through there.
Okay, so go back for clarification.
Yes.
With the modification
Mhm.
and added findings related to why this ramp is allowed.
Yeah.
And our second is happy with all of that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now we can have a roll call vote.
Chair Westman,
I'm actually going to vote no, and only because I have consistently said I didn't think that Capitola Avenue was the appropriate place for us to have sidewalk dining.
Vice Chair Christensen,
I'm voting yes.
Commissioner Esty.
Aye.
Commissioner Jensen.
Okay, so the motion passes. Our next item is 103 Kennedy Drive. And it's a design permit and conditional use permit amendment to convert parking spaces to an outdoor tasting area, bicycle parking, and mobile food vending more than 4 times per year.
Thank you again, and I'll be doing this presentation as well. So this is Sante Darius at 103 Kennedy Drive. I've got a aerial site plan for you here, and I'll note that there is another building on the property at 200 Kennedy that does play into the parking calculation, which is the primary zoning measurable that we took a look at with this permit. So just going to get right into how the zoning ordinance allocates demand for parking is an assessment of by use and square footage. So we did a takeoff and looked at the interior use of the Sante Darius facility. The 799 square feet of tasting, and then the remainder of the first floor is dedicated to custom manufacturing. And then there's a mezzanine level that is all part of the same continuous use in the interior tasting. Zooming out to the proposed tasting area, this is the outdoor tasting area, 575 square feet. And then the 200 Kennedy building, 4,800 square foot warehouse. And then we've got a little table at the bottom right, tallies it all up as the zoning ordinance prescribes various ratios to these different uses. And 30 parking spaces provided and 30 would be required. In doing a little bit of cross-checking with some aerial photos, I realized just prior to the meeting that the accessible parking spaces actually weren't counted. So there's actually 2 additional parking spaces available on the property. As well, I wanted to note that the applicant worked directly with the city to provide off-shoulder parking, a couple of improvements along Kennedy Drive highlighted in orange here. This provided a public parking facility for the entire area, 16 parking spaces. This project was completed in 2016. in cooperation with the city. I think the business had some success initially that was maybe a little bit unexpected. And so they had a bit of a parking issue at this facility, and they were a good partner and worked with the city on providing parking here. I think there isn't such a demand for parking anymore, and we haven't had any complaints in several years about parking in the area. So looking at back to the facility, purple is the Sante Darius building. The green is the patio tasting. Part of the request is to have mobile food vending more than 6 times per year, which requires a use permit modification. The food trucks would pull in and park basically in front of the patio and tasting area near the trash enclosure. Program includes hours of 9 to 8 p.m. It's an option for 6 times a year on Fridays and Saturdays to be open until 10. This is a self-serve, so there would be no wait staff. This is not a conversion to a restaurant. It's really just a self-serve, and there would be no table service, but it would be managed, and the vendors would be managed by permanent on-site staff. And there are 2 public restrooms available at the interior. And this originally was part of COVID relief for this facility. And so this installation is there now. Exterior being reclaimed wood planters and barrels is the primary exterior design. And at the interior, string lights, umbrellas, and picnic tables. And so we are recommending approval of this application as well. I'd be happy to take questions.
Can you go indicate where the bicycle parking is? And are they expanding that, or is that over there to the left?
It's bolted into this last parking space here, and it's 9 spaces.
Is there any drainage concerns for having the, plan?
Yeah, so this is just going to sit on top of the parking lot paving, so there were no drainage impacts.
Okay.
Okay, we open it to the public. We'll open this up to the public. Anybody in the audience who would like to come and address us?
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, staff. My name is Adair Paterno. I am the owner of the business Sante Darius at 103 Kennedy. When we first leased the space 12 years ago, we only had 1 of the units. Now we have all 5 of the units. So basically just a brewery in that location. And the patio that we built during the COVID relief period has really been instrumental in keeping us going and keeping us alive. But now it's become something that people expect. I mean, we have beautiful weather here. We all like to sit outside. I have fundraisers out there for the shelter, for the SPCA and other organizations. And it's just become a really great community gathering space. So we would love to be able to keep it. And I'm welcome to answer any questions that you might have.
I'm John McCoy, the property owner since 1994 and technically the holder of the master use permit for the property. And again, I am relieved to have 1 very responsible tenant instead of a mix of 5 different tenants that we started with on the property. And in general, the neighborhood in 1994 was not the greatest. And through cooperation with Capitola Police earlier on in the years, and certainly the residents are taking great pride in the residential area, and along with their owner and management of the residential park that we share the access with. They're doing a great job at making this part of the neighborhood a viable and enjoyable part of the community. And I judge the strength of the community by watching who's there. And we've seen a mix of, instead of people in the old times dumping loads of things, on the side because they thought nobody was there. We all watch now, and we see a lot of families bicycling, kids, people taking their morning walks through there, walking their dogs, and it's changed a lot. And I'm proud of everyone who has contributed to that. So as far as technical knowledge about drainage or things, I know all of that. So if you have specific questions, I'll chime in.
No, I do have one question. Are you planning on having live music outdoors?
No, that's not the current plan. If we did want to have live music, we would seek a permit to do that if that were possible, but we typically don't have any music outside. There's music indoors, but not outside. It's quiet.
Right, because there are residents actually fairly close to you. so
Correct.
That could be an issue. Okay, thank you.
Been to your place many times, really enjoy it. What is this, what does this increase the occupancy, allowable occupancy?
Oh, goodness. There are 8 picnic tables outside that seat probably 6 of them seat 6 each. And the other ones seat less people because they're ADA accessible picnic tables. So they only have 2 little seats on them where you can wheel up a wheelchair. So those probably only seat 4 people. So it'd be 8, like 50 people probably.
You ever had any issues with the mobile home park next door?
Not that I'm aware of. If they have concerns, they haven't brought them to my attention. You're welcome.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Manuel Vieira, and and hello to the Planning Commission. You're talking about the ownership or the management of the mobile home park. You got them right here. You're just a neighbor. And I want to run some key points here. When this property was being built, there was conditional use permit. Permit means that it doesn't have a right to change what they're asking for. There was a condition when they built the building. Pelican Mine was there. All the alcohol must be maintained inside the property. Okay, I understand COVID, so that's why you haven't heard many complaints from us. If anyone was around back in the day when it was being built, it was a big controversy going on. The council should deny the permit because of the harm it would cause the community with seniors, kids that live less than 50 feet away. This area is residential and commercial. Allowing Pelican Winery to operate alcohol consumption at this entrance to the residents of the mobile home park should not happen. The mobile home park is about 50 feet at the max to the first residence. It has families and little children. The mobile home park has families, older folks, already has been exposed to public drunkenness that have left that property. The police department has been out there for people intoxication being arrested that hit a couple of mobile homes. People that are trying to find the place and have mishap of I think a lady's cat and a few other incidents during the year since they started. And by doing this outside patio, you're enhancing the situation than what it is. Right now at the time moment, because of COVID, you're allowing them outside. I'm waiting to see when you guys can put the situation back to the conditional use permit when it was built. In addition, all work and all the processing of the wines with barrels and stuff is supposed to be outside. And unfortunately, they're not following the permit. So I strongly suggest if you guys could deny this proposal. Thank you. And want to write my name here?
Fine, put your name down, then
Okay.
we'll get it correctly in a minute. So is there anyone else in the public who would like to speak? Anyone on Zoom?
Yes, we have one participant with their hand raised on Zoom. We'll allow Linda to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linda Vieira, the other owner of Cabrillo Mobile Home Park, which is adjacent to the winery. And I am against the conditional use permit being requested by the winery. It is, as previously stated, very close to the all-age mobile home park where there are families and seniors. There's a concern about the people walking through the residential area following their visit to the winery. And again, it's a private property, so we want to discourage any additional trespassing that has and could occur. And the detriment to the community and to our mobile home park far outweighs any economic benefit I believe that can be derived from the winery for this additional proposed use. So I recommend that the Planning Commission decline the requested conditional use permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else on Zoom? Okay, with that, we will close the public hearing and we will bring it back to commission. I will say that I was actually here in 1994 when this was originally approved. And I do think that along with, you know, the outdoor dining that we're doing in the village, which was not allowed in 1994, we are going through somewhat of a change in, you know, the type of dining and entertainment that people want. And they're not in violation of their prior use permit. What they're in is they're here applying for a modification to that use permit to be able to do what they're proposing to do tonight. So hear from someone else.
Has there been any data or research taken from their concerns from the police department? Do we have any issues that have been noted or?
Yeah, I in the plan review, I did talk to the police captain. They didn't have any concern with the application. I didn't ask them specifically about mobile home, but the issue with the facility as it's been operating for the last couple of years. So no calls to that.
No additional calls for service before when they had no outdoor dining compared to what they have now?
I don't really have any questions per se. I think that, I mean, the outdoor dining seems to enhance the overall area. And I mean, as it was said, cyclists and people coming around there, it's just proper regulation and management, which I'm hearing seems to be sufficient.
I guess, yeah, well, I was concerned about the noise aspects and Mr. Vieira's comments as well about the access to their private property. My recollection is there are gates on Turner Lane for certain and also on Rosedale Avenue. I don't know if you looked at that. Make sure, certainly cars can't go through. So I remember that, but I think I got around it on my bike. Can't remember. But if not, is there something we could do to make it more clear that you do not drink at San Darius and wander onto this private property? We could collectively work.
It seems like, you know, I agree with you about the noise. So, you know, for me, I would like to see there be an actual condition that says they're not going to have any live music outdoors without getting an entertainment permit for a special event. And I think it would be appropriate to put a condition in there that they put up some signage, you know, asking their customers not to walk through the mobile home park, that is private property. Because I think for a lot of people who do walk through there, they're unaware that that's not something that's there for you to do. So if we could do those two things.
Yeah,
Uh,
that would be, that'd be,
I think that would help the mobile home park because
Yeah.
noise would be my main concern. Parking's really not an issue because they have their own parking here. Yeah.
Yeah. With those two conditions, I would approve. I would move approval for this.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
yeah, I will second the motion with the two additional conditions.
Okay. Can we have a roll call vote?
Chair Westman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Christensen, Commissioner Estee,
Aye.
Commissioner Jensen.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously. So I have a question because I got a little confused at the beginning of the meeting. Because on the agenda I just printed out from the city's website, we had 836 Bay Avenue as the first item on our consent calendar. And you were requesting that we continue that item, but it wasn't on the green agenda that was on the dais. So do we need to take some action on 836 Bay Avenue since it was on the agenda that was on the city's website?
My understanding is that we need to renotice for that item because we need to add a variance to the original noticing. So
Okay,
I think it would be,
so you just took it off the agenda since you're going to renotice it again.
Yeah, it should have been on the
Yeah.
full packet, but we were asking that this item be
Yeah, I
continued.
printed this out this afternoon
Hmm.
from your website. And it had that on there. So just in case anyone in the public was interested, that item was taken off the agenda and will be coming back on a future agenda, and that's at 836 Bay Avenue, which I believe is the Chevron station.
yes.
So now we are at the point on our agenda for a director's report.
One more item.
One more.
Oh, one more, the mall. Okay, so we do have one more. 1855 41st Avenue. And it is a conditional use permit to allow Capitola Mall food court restaurants to sell beer and wine within the designated food court area. Staff report?
Thank you and good evening. As you see there, it's another alcohol-related application. Specifically, this application is proposing a conditional use permit to allow the sale and consumption of beer and wine at the Capitola Mall food courts for the tenants there to sell it. Permit would designate food court as a shared premises for alcohol consumption. And the property is located within the regional commercial zoning district in the Capitola commercial corridor. This is as the frontage appears today on Clare Street that enters straight into the food court there. This is a view of the food court as seen from just inside that entrance. And right here we have from the opposing side from inside the mall in the retail area. I just want to note really quick that you can see in the center right here, there's a directory sign. And just for future reference, when we look at the site plan, that is the sort of demising line between what we're going to be calling the food court area. So you can see it here. The directory sign is right in between these dots. So the Capitola Mall food court common area is approximately 7,000 square feet and contains 11 tenant suites. Court can be accessed directly from the mall parking area as well as the larger mall interior. The yellow zone on the site plan you can see above indicates the shared premises, and the green area indicates all the eligible tenant suites within the food court. Right here's a breakdown of those tenant suites themselves. There's a few that are grayed out as those ones are not among the eligible. So although there are 11 tenant suites in the larger food court area, only 8 would be eligible for alcohol sales. 2 of them are located on the periphery of the food court, as we saw before, and are not included. They're outside of that dividing line. And the third space is not leased to the public. Those 3 spaces that I just mentioned are indicated here. There's small red lines leading to them. But when evaluating conditional use permits, Planning Commission must consider the characteristics of the proposed use. And to this end, the Commission may also attach conditions of approval to the use permit. Proposed CUP for alcohol will not modify the structure and is not considered an intensification in terms of parking. The court is already configured as a shared eating premises with and requires minimal alteration, which the applicant has limited to just signage. In 2021, planning and police staff met the applicant on site on a preliminary basis to discuss and assess the possible alcohol sales in the future there. After which 2023, we had the application submitted. But following that visit, staff provided the applicant with an outline of possible conditions and limitations that would satisfy their primary considerations, which involved, just as an overview, limiting alcohol consumption premises to a controllable area, clearly defining the shared premises for the patrons themselves, and the ability to identify and monitor alcoholic beverages after point of sale. Staff and the applicant subsequently incorporated into these measures into the business management plan, the conditions of approval, and the chief of police's letter of support. So just a consolidation here of the management plan. It includes required employee training for restaurants selling alcohol, unique beverage containers for alcohol, which can be distinguished from non-alcoholic beverages, increased monitoring of the food court by security staff in coordination with security staff and the businesses themselves. The businesses would also be taking a part in monitoring of the after point of sale, the alcohol. Added security shifts for forecasted peak customer activity and signage defining the boundaries for patrons, which I'll get into now. There's a key on the side here, and below that, there's a demonstration of what the permanent stickers could look like. There will be a combination of permanent stickers affixed to the entrance doors, as well as to the entrances to the bathroom hallway, just next to the entrance, as well as when you're leading into the retail area. So they'll have them spread across there. I believe we also included a condition to have them on whenever there's a French door to the outside, because there's several door sets that they'd be at least on one of those doors. Prior to any alcohol sales, the planning staff inspection is also required to ensure that the signage is in place. Each business wishing to utilize the shared premises seating areas for alcohol must also apply for an ABC license and meet all the requirements shown above. With the combination of the management plan and the conditions of approval, the chief of police, Andy Daly, provided a letter of support for the application. I would like to note, lastly, though, that after the approval, if there was an approval tonight, that this would not require any subsequent planning commission review as written in condition. So this would simply be a ministerial process with planning staff and coordination with the police department. With that, staff recommends the approval of the application based on the findings and conditions of approval. If there are any questions, I'm available.
So the to-go sales confuses me a little bit. So they sell alcohol you can take out of the area as long as you don't open the container. But can I walk into Macy's and open the container?
No. So
We prevent that.
So the ABC actually gives some, there's some flexibility with how a type 41, which is likely the only license that would be applicable here, can be utilized. They can actually be for on and off sale, but if both are allowed, they're actually seen as two different uses. So if you buy alcohol for on sale consumption, the restaurants would actually open that container for you, and in this case, likely pour it into a separate container. From that point on, from the point of those containers being opened, they cannot leave the premises. So they must be discarded or consumed on site. If it's sold for off-site consumption, it cannot be opened on site. It has to be taken home. So you can't open it outside. You can't open it inside. If you open it inside, they'll have to take it from you. This is pretty standard for a lot of bars and even restaurants. Some places are limited by condition so that they can't do off-site sale, and some places, just by simplicity, might also only do on-site sale. The Planning Commission could add a condition dictating that this is only for on-site consumption, but we did not include a condition at this time.
Was there previously a license for the food court in the past years? ABC license for this?
I'm not aware of there ever being any individual alcohol licenses for tenants of the food court. There have been and are alcohol licenses in the other parts of the mall for the independent restaurants.
And just to add to the on-site and off-site, we were, in considering this, we're thinking about Target, and you can go into Target and buy beer and wine and for consumption off-site. So where it's in such close proximity, we thought, why limit it in this location when they can just go to Target?
We do also have the general manager of the mall here today with us.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to us?
Brian Kirk, General Manager. To answer your question, Jerry, there were tenants I found out much before my time, but our operations manager has been on site for 40+ years and said that they did have beer and wine sales, I believe, about 15 years ago. Pulled up some old photos of the menu. So the Chinese restaurant, and then there was a barbecue place or a fish and chip place. And then as the tenant mix changed, went away, there was no need for it as hot dog on a stick. Dairy Queen, they don't sell that, and it kind of just faded off. But otherwise, thanks for reviewing. I think this offering will allow the tenants to increase their menu items, allow them to expand their sales, hopefully bring in new foot traffic, help the overall health of the mall. And then with our security, we've got CCTV cameras, on-site security, great cooperation with PD. Not really concerned with the safety, I think.
Thank you. Do we have anyone on Zoom who would like to speak on this item?
No, we do not.
Okay. With that, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. Anybody like to make any comments or ask any questions?
No comments?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, you go to lots of malls and they have all sorts of restaurants in the malls that are selling beer and wine. And as Katie mentioned, you could just go into Target and buy it as well. So I don't see any concern. So we need a motion and a second.
I would move approval. And I also want to say that I think that this kind of goes along with the other types, like downtown Santa Cruz. They have the, what is called? It's a communal eating area, food court. They have all the different restaurants and little bars. And I just think it's a really great step in the right direction to keep people frequenting the mall and bringing community there and making it, in whatever direction the mall is going to go. I'm for it. So I move approval.
I'll second.
Okay. So So we have a motion and a second. Do we want to do a roll call vote?
Chair Westman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Christensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Estee.
Aye.
Commissioner Jensen.
Okay. So
Oh,
yeah.
one thing I was just wondering, Brian's here. Could you give a quick overview just of the mall? I've been there recently, like of the vacancy rates or what you're seeing and kind of where you're seeing the mall at the present time.
Sure. Yeah. Expand on. We've got obviously unknown timeline with the redevelopment, so we're just trying to bring in lots of local businesses, homegrown, trying to treat it like a community marketplace to help incubate small businesses. So we've added about a dozen businesses in the last year. We're still expanding, food court being one of them. That was all boarded up basically during COVID. So we're slowly bringing that all down, trying to get it to full occupancy. And then, only helps the city tax revenue, helps the local business owners. So people have been seeing it, they come in, and so hopefully it's driving more traffic.
Thank you. Okay, now it's time for the director's report. I think I got it right.
Thank you. I've got a couple items for you tonight. First, I wanted to mention the August 17th meeting. We have definitely 2 items, probably 3. 206 Hollister is going to be before you with a single family home and ADU, as well as 836 Bay Avenue, which is the Chevron for the canopy. And then as long as everyone is here, we'd like to bring forth the discussion on color board and materials. So at that meeting, I will not be present. I have another obligation. So Brian will be in very good hands with Senior Planner Brian Freilich. Another update is we are going to be modifying what our agenda looks like. We're going to kind of base it on what you see at City Council so that the recommendation is right there in the agenda. I think it's a friendlier way to present it to the public so they know where staff is at with the application and whether or not it just makes it easier than going through all the reports. So we'll be updating our agenda. There was a question that came in earlier about the Monty fireworks. Those are not happening this year because of the wharf and it's just very complicated along our very small beach front. And then I have some good news. I heard from HCD this week that they're ready to provide me with initial comments. So I think we turned this in about 2.5 weeks ago, and they've got a planner that Veronica's worked with a lot in the past, and I think they're going on leave shortly. So they're trying to get this done for us. So they're going to give us kind of a preliminary list. So I plan on bringing this back to you sooner rather than later to work out the preliminary list, because we'll be able to resubmit that during this initial 90-day period and hopefully get our list even smaller. I'm really worried about Builder's Remedy, and we're going to do our best to try to get this accomplished before the end of the year. So, okay. And lastly, continue to save the date for October 19th for that housing element special meeting. And that's all I have for you this evening. Thank you.
Okay, any commission comment?
Nope.
Not tonight, nope.
Okay, I just had one brief, and I was going to let you know that I will not be here on September 7th. But Courtney will do a fabulous job running the. I'm actually going to be out of the country on that day. Be here for the other. All right, I think we're ready to adjourn. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.